Hello friends. So in today's video, we would be looking at what are user-defined table value function, right? In one of my earlier videos, we have talked about the scalar function. So in this video, we are going to talk about, the table value function. So as usual, understanding the UDF table value function and then some practical demo. So what is table value function? So UDF table value function returns results in a tabular format. It's very simple, right? It actually send the result set into a table format. So actual table is being returned from this function. Unlike in scalar function, you might have seen that it was just actually returning one single data type, or you can say one single value. But here altogether the full table can be returned. UDF table value function body can contain multiple TSQL support, right? Now table value, function comes in two form. One is the inline table value function and one is the multi-statement table value function. I will show you the difference in the practical demo. But for now, just understand that in with inline table value function, you cannot have the multiple TSQL statement. It's just like a view, wherein after creating a defining a function, you can write only single select statement. But in multi-statement table value function, again you can like as scalar function, you can write multiple TSQL statement in to the table value function. It can accept one or more parameters and can return results into the table form. Okay. It can use logic such as if blocks, while loops, and everything. And you can call a table value function from another table value function, right? So yeah, let's see something in action. Let me first, here we are using AdventureWorks 2019 database. Okay, okay. So now, what is the syntax? So here, initially we are going to look at inline table value function. So what is the syntax? Create or alter function. Then you write a function name. Then all the input parameters, they can be any number, and then here you can say returns table. Now here you are just specifying the type of the return. That is, you are saying that we are saying that only returns a type table, then as clause, and then with the return clause, you simply write a select statement, nothing else. So you cannot have this. If you have watched my video about scalar function, then we have written some code between the begin and end. So in this case, you cannot have begin and end, right? You just simply write a select statement. That's it. Okay. So this is basically a basic syntax on table value function. Let us see actually how to create a table value function. So here, I'm using two tables from AdventureWorks 2019 database. One is purchase order detail and one is product. And I'm joining these two tables based on product ID from both the tables. And we are selecting some columns like purchase order ID, product ID, order quantity, line total, name, product number, and color. Let me show you first, what data would be generated. So you can see here, these are the columns we are selecting. Okay. And now I'm creating the table value function without any input parameter. So as we have seen in syntax, create or alter function, DBO, the schema, and then in order, inline PO order without any parameters, and then we specify returns table as, and then simply with the return clause we have written this select statement. So this is my very basic table value function. Let me create this function as usual. If you want to see this, then go to the database. I'm here in database. Go to the programmability, go to the functions, and under table value function, you can see here this inline or P order, and within the parameters. Currently, we don't have any parameters, so you cannot see any parameters. Okay, so you can find your function here, right? Now, how to access, the value from this function? How to, get the result? So now, very first thing, just understand that this returns the type of table, right? So as you are selecting the record from the physical table, similarly, the similar syntax goes for the querying the table value function. So, we write select star from and the function name. So instead of table name, we are actually using the function name. As it doesn't have any input parameter, we just put this empty bracket. So when I execute this, you can see here the result sets are written to me. Okay, with the simple execution. Now, as you know, that basically this returns a table, right? So all the things that is, the using where clause, using order by clause, or further grouping of the records. You are doing with the select query with the physical table. The same thing can be done, with the table value function, because it is it is acting as a table itself. Okay, but you just had some logic, written into that function, and then you're using this function. Okay, so initially I shown you that select star from table. Simply when we execute this, it gives us this result. Now I'm ordering, right? So you can see here I want to order it by order quantity, so I'm writing select star from function name of function and order by order quantity descending. So now you can see my order quantity is in descending order. Okay. Similarly, I don't want all the columns, right? I want a specific column from that function. So, I'm using product ID, name, and order quantity only. That can also be done. So when I execute this query, you can see product ID, name, and order quantity only. Similarly, I want to use some aggregate function on the output of this, table value function. So I have written a query, selecting name, and then summing up the line total. So what I want that for each product, I want to understand what is line total. Okay. So what we are writing, select name, then sum function, then in bracket line total as line total from my function. So whatever the result set is generated from the function, upon that this would be done. That is summation and grouping, and then I'm grouping it by name. So when I execute this query, you can see for each a different product, it is showing me the line total, right? So basically, the purpose of this to show you is that though it is a function, but you can do everything whatever you are doing with the physical table, because it acts as a table itself. Okay. Now in this case, I'm joining this with another table. So if you can see, we have this purchase order ID, and we are actually getting data from purchase order detail and product. Now what I want is I want to get a order date from my purchase order header. Okay, so I'm using that table purchase order header. Then with the inner join, you can see dbo dot function, and then similarly on the on clause, I'm using purchase order ID from both the table. So if I execute this, you can see we get the same number of record, but then order date from the purchase order. So in this case, we are actually joining this with another table also, right? So you can, join the function with another table. The only thing is, joining a function is little bit different with the table value function, depending upon the input parameter. So you can surely use inner join, left join, outer apply, whatever it may be, right? If you don't have any parameters, and then you can specify the joining condition. But in case you have the parameter, okay, sorry, I would come to that afterward. Now this was a very basic function. Let us see the function with the input parameter. Okay, so now we have we are writing altering the same function, but now here I am passing the order quantity as my input parameter, and then I'm we are actually getting the results for all the products with their line totals and quantities, where my order quantity is greater than whatever I have passed. Okay, so where clause, we are actually using the where clause here. So let me create this function first for you. Okay, and then simple, you need to pass the quantity. So now this would actually give us the result for all the quantities, for all the records whose order quantity is greater than 100. So if I say 560, right, which is greater than 550, then you can see we would get only 137 records, and all the order quantities are greater than 560. Got the point? Similarly, in my next example, you can see I have kept the order quantity as it is, and I have passed the color varchar is equal to silver. Now, if you are aware of the default input parameter, right? What mean by default input parameter? Whenever you have a default input parameter, right? If you pass a null, for function it is a null. In procedure, it is it is allowed that you don't pass anything. But for function, you will have to pass a null value. Okay. So if you pass the null, then instead of taking the that value as null, function will consider this silver as my default. So if you don't pass anything, when you say null, which means I'm saying that if you don't pass anything, then it would consider this as a silver. So let us see how does this work. So for example, order quantity again is greater than order quantity, right? And then PRD color is equal to @ color. So I'm actually equating my color with the whatever has been passed. Simple. Otherwise, rest of the things remains the same. Okay. And now here we are saying, okay, default, right? Here we are saying default. So when I say default, you can see here, for silver, for this order quantity greater than 560 is only one record. If I remove this 560 and put 550, then you can see there are lot many. And now instead of default, if I pass red, okay, uh, no red, uh, um, see, there should be some record. Yeah, there is one record. So for red, so I have just lowered down the order quantity. So now here you can see as I have passed red, so it is considered the value to be equated for color is as a red and not silver. So the silver would be equated. Of course, if you pass the silver, then also silver would be equated. But if you don't pass anything, you specify that I want to use that parameter as a default parameter. Sorry, default parameter, then it would use default as a silver. Okay. Now coming back to joining with the tables. So I have already shown you how to join with the tables, but there are two different things. Okay. So let me first create the function. Here again I'm not passing any input parameter. Okay. When I create this function back, so here you can see I have shown on the top also that I'm joining this purchase order header to get the purchase order date, and depending upon what, a purchase order ID from my purchase order header and purchase order ID from my function output. Okay. And when I execute this, it will give me the purchase order also, right? So this way you can join. Now you can have inner, left, outer, right, anything. But only this is possible only when you don't have any input parameter to be passed. Now, if you want to pass an input parameter, right? So here I'm passing purchase order ID. So I want to get the function data depending upon whatever purchase order ID is being passed. So if you want to pass a purchase order ID, right? And now if you try to put this, it will automatically show error an insufficient number of arguments. Okay, arguments. Can I pass the purchase order ID from my header table? It is okay. Still, it will give me an error. So you cannot pass the value from the joining table with the inner join, right? Of course, you can pass the static value if you want. Let me show you with the static value. Oops, you get the data. So for example, purchase order ID 1. So instead of here, if I write 1, then it will execute this query. See, because we have passed the static value. But if you want to pass anything relating to this purchase order header, then in that case you will have to mandatorily use cross apply. Without cross apply you cannot, right? So with the cross apply, two things have happened. Because we are passing the PO purchase order ID from my purchase order header table, you don't have to specify on clause with a for cross apply, because this is already working as an on clause, equating clause. What we are saying that just give me the result from this function where my purchase order ID is whatever purchase order ID is currently read by the query. from the purchase order header table, right? So this is as good as specifying this on clause. But if you have this, you know, if you want to pass an input parameter and if you want to pass that input parameter from your joining table, then you will have to mandatorily use cross apply. Without cross apply, it would not work. Okay. So now if you execute this query, you can see for each purchase order ID, it is generating, it is giving me the order date. Okay. And the same number of records have been fetched, right? So this was the inline table value function. I have shown you different ways in executing, how to without parameters, with parameters, default parameters, right? But the only thing which we need to understand is that you cannot write multi-statement. You can have simple one single select statement with an inline table value function, right? Let us see a demo for multi-statement. Now, multi-statement also, same as, it is as good as, as same as inline table value function. Only there are two difference. One is here you can see we had to specify just a returns table. And here in multi-statement, again a returns, but you can actually define this table. Same way. So instead of just specifying returns the table, we are specifying returns the table variable name, then a type that is table, and then you can actually specify the all the columns into the table. And secondly, the begin and end comes into the picture, and you can have multiple TSQL statements here, right? So this is the only difference between inline and multi-statement. All other things remains the same. Okay. Let me show you. So here you can see I have created this function multi-statement PO order returns at the rate result table, the table type of return, and then I'm specifying the columns which would be the part of this returning table. Okay. And then begin and between begin and end, I'm actually doing something. Now here what I want to do is, so for example, let me show you this. We have this record. First of all, I'm doing two things. You can see here there are, certain colors are null. So I'm updating these values to unknown. And secondly, I'm actually concatenating the final result set with name, product number, and color. Okay, in multi-statement. So similarly, what I have done, we have already, declared this table. So initially, depending, I'm putting all my data from the result table, from my this query into my this table variable. Okay, and we have already defined table variable here. So I'm just currently skipping full product name. Rest of the details I'm populating with the help of this query. Then see, this is where the multi-statement comes. So initially, I have actually populated this table. Now, whatever the result is there in my result table, I'm updating. Initially, I'm updating the color as unknown, where my color is none. And then again, I'm updating the result table with for full product name. I'm using concat function to concat name, product number, and color, right? So you can see here with a multi-statement, you can do lot many things, right? Again, you cannot use the temporary table in the function, but you can use the table variable. We have already seen. So, any intermediate calculation and any intermediate results, if you want to store in another table variable, everything you can do. So this is a multi-statement. Okay. And then finally you give a return clause, which we have already defined this table. So it will actually return this table. Okay, let me show you this function. Let me create this. Okay, function is created. Again, the execution would be the same as inline table. Select star from and then function name. Okay. Oops. Adventure works. Sorry. Let me create this function again. Right. And then executing this function. See, right? So as I told you, what does function need to do? Initially, we had actually updated the color value as unknown for all nulls, and then we actually concatenated the name, the product number, and color. And my final result set has been returned to me with all other columns, right? So this is a multi-statement table value function. Rest of the things like using order by clause, using further grouping, joining with the tables, another tables, remains the same as inline table value function. The only difference, again I'm repeating, the only difference is you can specify the table structure and you can have multiple lines written into it. Multiple statement SQL code, multiple statements can be written into it. Right, guys? So this was multi-table statement, and this was a table value function. As usual, practice more to understand this. Whoever is new to this SQL world, practice as much as possible for inline table value function and multi-table value function. Right? If you have liked this video, please press the like button, subscribe to my channel so that you would keep getting notification as then when I upload some good videos. All right. Thanks for watching these videos. Meet you next time with next good topic. Till then, bye. Take care.